to the virtual investor quarters in REI Live SRQ. We are working with Edwin Kelly today, and he's going to be sharing 3 common myths about retirement funds and how you can use your retirement account moving forward in your real estate career. And with that, I will let Edwin, I know he has so much information to share with us today.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this. Catherine and I were talking about what to cover right now and what's most relevant, what's been coming up from you guys. And so it's interesting, I operate by a set of core values. And so one of the new core values that I recently adopted based on my conversation with her yesterday is that if Catherine's happy, everybody's happy. So we talked about what's most relevant right now. What are the challenges, the questions coming up, and let's tackle those. And so the interesting thing is that the things that have been coming up about this are what I will call myths. Okay, so there's some misinformation out there. There's some things that cause some confusion at times. And so I just kind of call those things myths. So in our conversation yesterday, what I realized, what you're asking and what a lot of folks are asking right now, I could categorize into 3 common myths that I've heard over the years. So my goal today is to debunk those 3 myths to help you move forward and make a lot of money. So with that, I always start with this, right? My attorneys make me always put this up every time I open my mouth. And basically what it says in a nutshell is this: today's purpose is for education only. I'm not going to give you any tax advice, legal advice, or investment advice, right? Fair enough. So with that, let's talk about 3 common myths that have come up recently, I've heard over the years, and we are going to now debunk. So here's myth number 1. And hold on a minute. I am going to move my controls here out of the way so I can actually read what I put down here. Okay, so number 1, it's impossible to make money and not pay taxes. You might feel that way. You might be thinking that way, particularly after the recent tax deadline, right? I paid a lot of taxes this year, for last year, and my goal is to not pay as much next year, right? And over time, my goal is to get down to pretty much 0 if I can. So I'll show you how to kind of do that. So the question is it impossible to make money and not pay taxes? It's impossible. That's one of the myths that's out there. You can actually make money and not pay taxes. I'm going to show you how to do that. Myth number 2. Now, this one takes on a couple, I've heard this voiced a couple different ways. And so it kind of depends what you're talking about in terms of which direction to go with this one. But this is one of the things that came up is, oh, it's too late, right? I've waited too long, is another way that some people say it. Another way that I've heard it is that it's an all or nothing proposition. Either I got to do it all or I do nothing, right? But there's no in between, right? There's no other option. It's like opposite ends of the spectrum, okay? That's a myth when it comes to a lot of topics that we're going to be dealing with today. The third and final myth that we're going to talk about is it's too complicated or it's too difficult, right? But where does that come from, and why do people say that, you know? And is that true? I mean, is that true? Is self-directing your retirement account into real estate too complicated? Is it too difficult? Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. I'll give you the information. You tell me if it's too difficult or too complicated. And, oh, wait a minute, but wait, there's more. There is a bonus myth that we will address, and I'm going to save that for last. So that's kind of a secret mystery bonus myth. So you do have to actually stick around to the end. So with that, let's just jump right into it. Myth number 1, it's impossible to make money and not pay taxes. Okay. When we pay taxes every single year, we have to file 1040s and we got to do all this stuff and we have to pay CPAs to file these things because the tax code is complicated and all this stuff. It might seem like it's impossible to make money and not pay taxes. Yet, interestingly enough, we know, famous business people, people like Warren Buffett, who has famously said, my assistant or my secretary or whatever he referred to her as, pays more in taxes than I pay. And that doesn't seem right. People talk about Jeff Bezos not paying a lot of money in taxes and yet being extremely wealthy and having high income. So we kind of hear, well, it is possible not to pay taxes or not to pay a lot in taxes, but how does that really work? Right? Seems kind of complicated. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to make a statement. You can make money and never, ever, ever pay tax again. Now, you're asking me the question, or I'll put that to you as a question, is it really possible to make money tax-free? Is it really possible to make money and not pay taxes? Well, okay, before you disconnect from this training, okay, well, let me share with you why I make that statement, because I'm telling you that's a true statement. And in fact, I'm going to be very specific here. Because some folks, when I bring this up, will say, well, Edwin, you're using weasel words. Certainly, like you're saying I'm not going to pay any income tax or something, but there's like a caveat or qualifier or whatever. Like, I'm really going to pay taxes. You're just making it sound like I'm not. So let me be very, very specific what I mean. When I say I will show you how to make money and never, ever, ever pay tax again, the question is it possible to make money and not pay taxes? Let me be very specific to taxes I'm talking about. Here's what I mean. So I'm not going to give myself any out. I mean, you won't pay federal income tax. I mean, you won't pay state income tax. You won't pay local income tax. You won't pay capital gains tax. You won't pay Social Security tax. You won't pay Medicare tax. You won't pay AMP tax. What I'm saying is no tax at all. Like, can you really make money and not pay anything in taxes, like any of these taxes? And the answer to that question is yes. Let me show you how to do it. So it's a very simple, it's a tool, and I'll say it's simple, and yet it's not simple at all. It's called a Roth IRA, and more specifically, a self-directed Roth IRA, okay? And a Roth IRA is a tool that the government created. It's an IRS-approved vehicle. And the reason why I can tell you it's an IRS-approved vehicle is because right here, I'm going to tell you what this is here in a second, what you see on the screen. But it's an IRS-approved vehicle that allows you and I to get control over money in a retirement account, specifically a Roth retirement account. And when we generate income and earnings and profits in that account through investing activities, we pay nothing in taxes. And when we want to spend money in the future to pay for our lifestyle, right, it's called a distribution. When we take money out of the account and spend it on our lifestyle, we will pay nothing in tax then either. So we make money and we spend the money tax-free, okay? The tool that enables us to do that is a Roth IRA. Now, I'm going to source this for you so that you know for yourself, because that's the most important thing, you shouldn't just accept my word for it. Don't accept anybody's word for anything. Understand, you want to get the information and know that it's accurate and true. So when it comes to retirement accounts and IRAs and all kinds of tax-related issues, one of the things that the IRS does every year is that they publish publications, hence publication. There are different publications for each type of retirement account. So publication 590, which is what you see here on the screen, they update this every single year. So you can see right here, it says, in the right, it says, what's due for 2019, what's new for 2020. This is the most current publication 590 that exists from the IRS right now. Again, it will get updated for next year. But this is the publication, and it says, you know, individual retirement arrangements. By the way, most people think that IRA stands for individual retirement accounts. It's actually individual retirement arrangement. If you want to impress your friends at the next cocktail party when you come out of quarantine, ask them, what does IRA really stand for, and see if they know. All right, so this is the publication that talks about that. Now, you'll see here on the content side, Chapter 1, Traditional IRAs, Chapter 2, Roth IRAs. You can see that begins on page 38. So for the sake of time, let's just flip over to the section on Roth IRAs. So you can see right here on page 39, it asks the question in the publication, what is a Roth IRA? Now, it says there, it says in the very first sentence, we'll just read the first part of that, it says a Roth IRA is an individual retirement plan. Okay, so again, it's an individual retirement plan created by the government. Obviously, this is an approved vehicle by the IRS. They are writing this publication, telling you how it works. But here's what I want to draw your attention to. Right there. So we're going to come down. If you see that little red circle, it says qualified distributions are tax-free. Tax-free. So now I'm not going to give you an in-depth, detailed discussion about how the Roth works mechanically. We're going to do Q&A at the end. If you have questions, feel free to ask anything you want. But what it says right there is that distribution, meaning when I take money out of an account to spend it, it comes out tax-free. There's no caveats there. There's no weasel words. it's a qualified distribution. By the way, what's a qualified distribution? What does it mean to take a qualified distribution? Meaning take money tax-free from a Roth. You have to meet two qualifications, unless I tell you otherwise. The first one is you have to be 59 and a half years old, so 59 and a half. Second one is the account has to be open for 5 years. 5 years, 59 and a half years old, you meet those two qualifications. Every dollar you pull out of a Roth comes out 100% tax-free. So no income tax, no federal, state, local income tax, no capital gains tax, no Social Security tax, none of those taxes I just listed. The IRS has it right there. So yes, you can make money so long as you do it in a Roth, and yes, you will be tax-free, okay, on those distributions. So is making money tax-free really possible? Yes, and the IRS put it in writing specifically in Publication 590. So you have the source. You can pull it off the website. You can read through it yourself if you choose to, okay? So that's the source. So that's myth number one. Yes, you can make money, and yes, you can avoid paying taxes completely. Interestingly enough, let me just tell you, a Roth IRA, here's how to understand a Roth IRA or a Roth type of an account. A Roth IRA simply allows you to go from forever taxed to never taxed. Forever taxed to never taxed. That's what a Roth IRA does for you. So that's myth number one. Let's jump to myth number two. It's too late, or it's all or nothing. This takes on, I'm going to kind of tackle a few different myths that people have in their mind. I can also call these stories. We're going to talk about stories. So stories are things that we tell ourselves. Now, I'll tell you I told you one of my core values already, right? If Catherine's happy, we're all happy. So let me give you another core value. This one I've held for a little longer than 24 hours. But this is a core value of mine. If I'm going to tell myself stories, I might as well make them good ones. I used to tell my staff, brainwash yourself in the right direction. There's a lot of different ways I could talk about that, but here's the reality of it. The biggest limitations you put on yourself are in your own mind. And so you tell yourself stories. I tell myself stories. If we're going to tell ourselves stories, why not just make them good stories? So a common myth or story that I hear people tell themselves is that it's too late, or it's an all or nothing proposition, meaning I've got money. If you understand Roth and you understand tax deferred, I've got all my money in tax deferred, or I don't have any money saved in retirement accounts at all yet, right? This takes on various life depending upon your situation, but it's too late or it's all or nothing, right? So that's not true. Let me tell you some other ways that people talk about this, or the things that I've heard them say with this myth or story. They say, you know what, I waited too long. And now, literally, I had a woman who is 37 years old tell me 3 weeks ago, I waited too long. I'm like, you're 37 years old. You did not wait too long. I have people coming to me in their 50s and 60s and sometimes 70s getting started with these strategies. You're 37 years old. You did not wait too long, all right? I can't afford all the taxes. This is referring to conversion. So when we take money from a tax-deferred account, we move it to a Roth, tax-free. Or people are going to contribute money to a Roth and not get tax deductions on their contributions. People will say things like, well, I can't afford all the taxes. I can't afford to pay the taxes. Okay, it's not an all or nothing deal. They think if I've got $1 million, as an example, in my traditional IRA, I can't afford to convert it to a Roth. I'd have to pay taxes on $1 million. Not true. There's a lot of different conversion strategies. It's not an all or nothing proposition. Okay, so it's about creating a plan that works for you. I don't have much money to start with. Okay, I hear that one. Or here's another way that sounds. Oh, well, I think I can only put like $5,000 or $7,000 in a retirement account this year. Like, what am I going to do with that? Like, how's that going to help me? Okay, well, if you have no account and you are starting with $5,000 or $7,000, that's how you start. Like, you have to start somewhere. Okay, so again, these are just all myths and stories, and I'm going to kind of give you a scenario here to show you why it's important to start where you're at. Okay, here's this is real life, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a tale of two investors. Now, I happen to know both these people, and I'm going to give you some background. And by the way, I changed the names to protect the guilty or the innocent, depending on how you look at it. So in both cases, so Janet is not her real name, so I did change that. She is a 40-year-old female. She is a client of mine at Specialized. And but she doesn't want me to share her information, so I'm not going to tell you who she is. I'm going to simply, but, we're going to call her Janet because her name does start with a J. I can tell you that. All right. So she's been with us for a couple of years. When she started her self-directed accounts, she transferred money over. She has quite a bit of money that she transferred over. And in fact, I will tell you that the amount of money that she had that she transferred over was over $500,000 and approached about $1 million when she first got started with us. So that was all tax deferred money, meaning like it was in a old 401k at work. She left work, right, moved the money over into self-directed accounts with us. You'll notice that I say here that she is note investing. So she's investing in notes. This is how she started out, investing in notes with a Roth, meaning we converted some, not all, some of the money from her traditional account to a Roth account. According to Janet, and this is what she told me, she is earning 20%. She earned 20% on her money investing in notes the first year in her self-directed accounts. Okay, so 20% ROI. So now let me introduce you to Barry, okay, investor number 2. Barry is a 40-year-old male with a Roth IRA, a self-directed Roth IRA. Barry told me, this is what Barry told me, okay, when I was talking to Barry, he says, you know what? I'm not doing much in my Roth. I'm doing everything in my business, right? I'm doing everything and making money now. Okay, fair enough. And so I want to kind of give you the scenario here. So let's say Barry is making the same amount of money on or return on investment on his money that Janet is making on hers. So let's just go with that assumption. They're both 40 years old. Barry is making 20% on his investments, right, and paying taxes as he goes. Now, we're going to start with the assumption that, because again, Janet has, like I told you, close to $1 million. What we converted to a Roth was $100,000. So she has $1 million in tax-deferred accounts, convert just $100,000 over, so her tax liability. She had write-offs and things like that, so I can't say that she actually even came out of pocket when she filed her 1040, but when she did the conversion, it is a taxable event. When you go from tax-deferred to tax-free, that is a taxable event. Again, we're not getting into all the details on that today, just want you to understand the concept. $100,000 in a Roth, right? So again, we're going to make this equal between the two. Barry, because he's doing everything outside the retirement accounts, even though he has one, he just doesn't really use it. He's making 20. We're going to assume he's making 20% on his capital. He's paying taxes as he goes. So he's same age, 40 years old. So 40 to 59, he's got 100,000. Let's say that he's starting with today. He's going to invest it for 19 years at 20%, paying taxes as he goes. How much money could he spend, or how much money will that grow to? How much will that grow to? $1,152,000 and some change. Okay. Now, Barry's a millionaire. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I mean, that's not bad. That is not bad. So $1 million. Now, here's the question, though. That's his nest egg, so to speak. You can't spend your nest egg. You'll run out of money, and you'll run out of it pretty fast. So what could you spend at 59 if you wanted to keep spending the rest of your life and not run out of money? Well, you could spend what you make on your money, right? Your ROI. So let's assume that he's not going to spend all 20%. Let's assume that he's not going to consistently make 20% a year. Let's just assume that he's going to make 10% on his money a year. Okay? So 10% on $1,152,000 is how much? Well, it's a little over $100,000, but keep in mind he's got to pay taxes on that, right? So after tax, what does Barry have to spend? He can spend $97,946 a year. So you got this? So $100,000 at 20% for the next 19 years will go over $1 million. He can spend his income. We're just going to call it 10% for forecasting purposes. And after paying taxes on that earning, right, on his income, he's going to have about, we'll call it $97,900 to spend. Now, Janet, by contrast, has a very different mindset. What Janet said specifically to me is I want to be as efficient as possible. So that's why we began with a conversion strategy for her, meaning all her money is tax deferred. She wants to start moving it to tax free. Okay, so she left her job and we converted her company 401k. We brought it over to Self Directed account, and then we converted part of it to a Roth. Okay. She took the Roth portion and she began investing in notes and earning. And again, according to what Janet told me, she said, Edwin, I'm making 20% on my notes. She said, this is amazing, right? Far better than what she was doing with her company 401k. So again, we're just going to go with the same assumptions. She's 40 years old. She's going to be investing $100,000 in a Roth for the next 19 years, earning 20%. So based on those assumptions, what does that $100,000 go to? Now keep in mind, because she's doing this in a Roth, is she paying taxes on the capital gains? We already talked about that. No. Any income tax on the earnings? No, there's no tax. This is 100% tax protected money while she's investing the money inside of her Roth. So because she's not paying taxes, remember, Barry's $100,000 paying taxes grew to $1.1 million. What does Janet's $100,000 grow to? You ready for this? $3,833,000. Now, stop there and pause for a second. In fact, don't pause. Let's keep going. We're going to pause on the next screen, okay? Because I want to show you this, because this is like, to me, this is amazing stuff. So her money grows to $3.8 million. So first thing I can tell you is that's the impact of taxes. So if you're 40, if you're 50, if you plan on investing and spending money for the next 10 to 20 years, you tell me, is it too late for you to have some sort of strategy to create money and build your nest egg tax-free? I don't think so. I don't see where the math would show that. In fact, the math tells me it's never too late to start. The best time to start is right now, okay? But let's do the same thing with Janet that we did with Barry, okay? Janet can't spend her nest egg, but what she could spend is income off the nest egg. Again, we're going to call it 10%, not 20%. We're going to just assume she's spending 10% or making 10% on her nest egg. We're going to just call that a forecast at this stage of the game. So 10% on $3.8 million is how much? Well, it's $383,000. Now, because that's coming from a Roth IRA, we just read in publication 590 from the IRS that she gets to take the distribution and it's tax-free. Tax-free means she takes out, she says, Edwin, send me a check this year for $383,000. How much does she pay in taxes to the IRS on that $383,000 distribution? Zero. So she gets to spend all $383,000. So let me kind of show you this. This is why I say just do something. If you do something, I can almost guarantee you will come out better than doing nothing. And here's what I mean by that. Let's take the scenario of those two investors, Barry and Janet, and break it down, okay? And we're going to equalize this. So two people, same age, same return, same amount of capital to invest. All three of those things are the same. Same time frame, 19 years. There's only one difference, and the difference is taxes. One's choosing and electing to pay taxes on his investments, and one is saying, I don't want to pay taxes. I want to be as efficient as possible. I want to get out of this, mess of having to pay all these taxes and whatever the government does in the future, okay? All conditions are the same. They just change one simple thing, which is where the name on the investments, business name, personal name versus the name on a retirement account, specifically a Roth retirement account. So now, this is why I say just do something. There's three places that you can attempt to build wealth. And here's the reality of it. whatever age you are, whatever stage of life you're at, I don't care, because my guess is you're thinking about the future, right? You're thinking about 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years out. Like, hey, right, I plan on living for a while, so I need to do something. Well, guess what? You can do three things. One of three things when it comes to building wealth, investing, creating income streams, okay? The first thing you can do is do it in a taxable environment. So if you have $100,000, just as an example to start with today, and you did these, we've already talked about the assumptions, 19 years, 20% ROI. Again, I'm not saying you're going to get 20% ROI. I understand these people, we don't invest your money as a specialized trust company. We are a passive custodian. We hold assets. We give you the ability and the power to get control of your retirement accounts and invest in anything allowed by the government. Okay, so returns are determined by what you invest in. So this is where, again, I'm using Janet's number that she relayed to me. She told me she's making 20% investing in notes. That's where I'm basing these illustrations and forecasts on. What I'm showing you here in this particular slide, I want you to understand there's three environments. First environment you can attempt to build wealth in is the taxable environment. That's the world everybody works, eats, lives, and breathes in. So when you have W-2 income, when you have net income from self-employment, right? When we are paying income tax, we are in a taxable environment. 100,000 at 20% for 19 years will spin off after taxes, all those assumptions that we just walked through, $97,946 a year. There's a second environment, though, that you could do this in. The second environment is a tax-deferred environment. So if you have like a traditional IRA, if you have a 401k at a company, or an old 401k or 403b or TSP, right? Those are typically tax-deferred accounts. Now, tax-deferred account is a great account because when you put the money in, you get a tax deduction this year if you're making a contribution. You get tax-protected growth on all your income and gains as you're investing your accounts. So your money grows faster and larger as a result. So here's the thing, $100,000 invested in a traditional IRA grows the exact same way it does in a Roth IRA. Because in both accounts, you're not paying taxes on your growth. Where you pay taxes is on the distribution. So in a tax-deferred account, we get a tax deduction on the way in, we get tax protected on our growth as we invest the money, we pay taxes on the way out. So, but because our account grows larger, our distributions are larger. So yes, we're paying taxes, but one, we're paying fewer taxes on distributions from a traditional. And not only that, the distributions are larger than if we were paying taxes on everything. So that's what you see here. The second area you can build wealth in is a tax-deferred account. After tax, forecasted distribution, again, I'm using all the same numbers for everything. All I'm doing is factoring in taxes here. I'm using all the same assumptions. The tax-deferred income is $268,000. That's what it would be a year in terms of spending 10% after and paying taxes, right, on distributions from a tax-deferred retirement account. All right. The third area that you can build wealth in is tax-free, right? And so this is Janet's scenario. So you can see here forecasted tax-free income at, $383,000 because she gets to spend 100% of the money. There's only one bad choice on the screen, okay? And it's the first one because you're willingly giving your money to the government, right? So number 2 and number 3, this is why I say there's no bad choice when it comes to self-directing retirement accounts. There's no bad choice. It's just which one is going to be better for you. Now, also keep in mind in this scenario, in this illustration, so we're going to call this an illustration because that's what it is. This is an illustration. In this illustration, remember what I told you. Janet had between $500,000 and $1 million as she moved over to Self Direct. She only converted $100,000 to a Roth. Hence, going back to I can't afford to pay taxes on all my money. I can't. It's too late. Any of those stories or myths that people throw out there, okay, it's just not true. You can start somewhere. You can start with something. I don't care if it's 100,000. I don't care if it's 5,000. I don't care if it's 500. You can start somewhere, okay? That's why I say just do something. That's, by the way, given those assumptions, and this is another reason why investing, we'll talk about real estate investing here in a second, specifically with self-directed accounts, this can be a perpetuity. This can not only benefit you for the rest of your life, but guess what? It can benefit your kids, potentially grandkids, right? All these folks. So we're going to talk about that. Let's talk about myth number 3. Self-directing in my retirement account into real estate is complicated and it's difficult. Okay, have you heard that one before? Because I hear that one every once in a while. Well, let's start with this. Who might you hear that from? The first couple people that you might hear it from are family members or friends. Now, typically, the reason why they say this is because they're well-intentioned, well-meaning people who care about us. And here's the thing that I know about my family members and friends. First of all, most of my family members and friends aren't wealthy, so I take that into account. The second thing is that they are concerned about me, and they want what's best for me. And if they don't understand something, then it's usually, if somebody doesn't understand something, usually that makes them feel uncomfortable and it's scary. So in other words, the reason why you might hear this from family and friends is because it makes them nervous. It has nothing to do with you or I. It has everything to do with them. They don't understand something, and so they're like, hey, I wouldn't do that, right? Or, oh, that sounds really complicated. Like, I wouldn't go down that path. All right. Who else might we hear that from? So I hear this from I hear people tell me this from financial advisors. The reality is that, so let's talk about financial advisors for a second. I used to be one. Not anymore, like I said, but I used to be one. I did that for many, 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 many years. The interesting thing about this is that with financial advisors, they don't self-direct as a general rule. They don't allow self-directing. And so again, just like many family members and well-meaning friends, they just don't understand it. So again, if it's something they don't understand, it's complicated and it's difficult. By the way, unfortunately, and one of the things that I did not like about that world is the way that we were compensated when I worked in that world. Okay, there is a conflict of interest between the financial advisor and the client. Okay, if you as the client move money away from the financial advisor, they take a pay cut. So it's in their own best personal interest to not take a pay cut, right? Hence, to keep all the money with them. So even if self-directing might be an option for, say, even just diversifying some of your money, right, to do some things different, they're not going to tell you that. In fact, they're not allowed to tell you that. There's actually a rule on the books. It's called selling away from the firm. And what that means is when I was a licensed financial advisor with UBS, which was one of the companies I was with, if I said, hey, yeah, you should go invest in real estate, or right, that could be a good thing for you as for part of your portfolio. If you took money away from UBS and put it someplace else, that's called selling away from the firm. I can actually lose my license for even telling you that. So understand that licensed financial advisors are put in a situation where unless they can do it at their firm, they're not even in a situation that they're legally allowed to tell you how to go do that. Like they can't even do it if they wanted to legally. All right. So that's the third place. Life insurance agents, I've heard life insurance say, oh yeah, cash out your retirement accounts, put it all in a life insurance policy. Horrible advice. Life insurance is great to have. I have it. You should have it. I keep buying more as the years go on. So life insurance is important, but it's not a replacement for retirement accounts. Okay. So those are typically where these myths come from. All right. So the myth is it's complicated, it's difficult. You tell me if that's true. I'm going to walk you through the process. I want to show you that self-directing is basically 3 simple steps. So you decide for yourself if this is too complicated or too difficult. Step number 1, you decide. You decide that you want to get control of your retirement account, that you want more for yourself, that you want more for your family, and that you are going to start participating in the decisions when it comes to building your wealth, and you're going to be intentional about it. When you decide that you want to self-direct your retirement account, the first step is you set up a retirement account. This can be done over the phone, online. It takes all of 10 to 15 minutes to set up your first self-directed retirement account, okay? Once you've decided to set up your account and you've got that in place, the second step is that you now deposit money in that self-directed retirement account. How do you deposit money? Well, there's a few different ways you can do that. So you can contribute to a retirement account, meaning we take money from our earned income this year. I take it out of my checking account or my savings account, and I now deposit that into my self-directed retirement account. Way number two is that I can do a transfer. So if I have an IRA set up someplace else, I can transfer all of that money. I can transfer some of that money. If I got $100,000 at someplace, I could transfer over $50,000 if I wanted to just diversify some of my money, as an example. And so I have again, it's my money, I have control. It's your money, you have control. So you get to decide that. So transfer is the second way. Third way is what people call it a rollover. It's not technically a rollover, but we're just going to go with that because that's the common language. Rollover is the term that people use when they say, hey, I'm going to take money from my old 401k, my old 403b. I'm going to roll that into a self-directed IRA. By the way, in the case of transferring money from an IRA or rolling over from a 401k, as long as it's done correctly, and the way you know it's done correctly is that you call your new custodian, specialized, and say, hey, I want to do this, do it for me, so that I don't pay taxes and I don't pay penalties, right? So your money comes over dollar for dollar when moved correctly. Don't do it on your own. Have your new custodian do it for you. So that money comes over. If you have $100,000 in your account, when you transfer it, $100,000 shows up in your new self-directed retirement account. So that's what I mean, dollar for dollar. Okay. So contribution, transfer, rollover, three ways to move money into a self-directed account. There's a fourth way when we're talking about Roths, because we can convert money. That's where we take money from a tax-deferred account, pay taxes to move it over into a Roth account, tax-free account, right? So we go from tax-deferred to tax-free. That's a fourth way unique to the Roth. So those are the ways you deposit money in the account. Again, not too complicated. Step number three, this is what makes it a truly self-directed account, because in step number three, that's where you say, specialize, here's what I want to invest my money in, right? And it's real simple. There's a piece of paper. You say, send money to buy this piece of real estate. Send money to this investor. I'm going to lend them money. Send it to this title agency, right? You direct it. It's really not that complicated. I mean, in fact, that's the three-step process. I wish I could make it more complicated than that. I don't know how, but that's the three steps. So that's effectively the process. Literally, that can be done in, I don't know, I mean, it's pretty quick. It doesn't take that long to do that. By the way, here's the fourth bonus step. The fourth, I'll give you another D just because I'm feeling really generous today. So you get a fourth bonus step in the process, and this is the one that's really all the fun. It's called distribute. Distribute is what it's called. A distribution, like we just read in publication 590, is when I take money from an account to spend, right? So I'm going to go travel to Thailand. I'm going to, right, take a cruise. I'm going to buy a condo in Florida, right? Whatever it is you want to do, whatever it looks like for you, that's the D in this, that's the distribute step, right? So that's where we get to spend the money that we've invested, grown, and accumulated. So that's the simple three-step self-directed process. Now, I told you that I was going to give you a bonus myth that I was going to debunk. And so this is the bonus myth. We're going to debunk this one, and then I'll be happy to take questions, and answer anything you got. So let me ask the question. I'm going to ask you a question this way, because what if we would have met about 10 years ago? So if we kind of recap those myths, I hope one of the things that you can take away, at least this is what I want to convey to you, is that one, it's never too late to start. Okay, you're going to see that in real time here in a second. Two, you can start with any amount of money anywhere, right? Three, it's simple. Like, this is stuff that you can do. There might be a small learning curve. We're going to help you with it. You got other people around you who can help you with it, but this is stuff that you can do. You can make money and increase your lifestyle by taking taxes out of the equation, by using tax-deferred accounts, by using tax-free accounts. We're going to address the question, why real estate with self-directed retirement accounts, because that's kind of an important question too, right? So people say, well, why do I want to diversify and invest some money in real estate perhaps? Well, so we're going to set up the context this way. What if we met 10 years ago? What might be different for you today? So this is the bonus myth. And I can start it off by saying, I can't, right? So this is where somebody says, I can't, and then fill in the blank. I can't build wealth. I've waited too long. I can't, fill in the blank. Like, what is the story that you're telling yourself that you're not going out and doing it? And when I say doing it, like living your life that you want to live, creating your dream, funding it, doing the things that it takes to actually make that possible, right? My guess is that there's some I can'ts in that story. So let's debunk that myth. And to debunk that myth, I'm going to introduce you to somebody by the name of Gary. Now, Gary is somebody that I've known for a while, and I'm going to give you some background on Gary. So Gary is 50. So we're going to go back in time. All right, it's been more than 10 years now. This is going back to 2004. So back in 2004, when Gary started his self-directing journey, he was a 53-year-old attorney. He had a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage, and car payments. It sounds pretty familiar, right? There's nothing extraordinary there. He makes between $100K and $200K a year. That might sound like a lot or a little or whatever, don't know, right? That's the household income. And with 4 people living in a decent neighborhood, nice neighborhood, driving nice cars, right? Sending kids to school, money is pretty much tapped out, right? It's consumed by taxes and bills and, all those kinds of things. So let me ask you a question. At 53 years old, how much money do you think Gary has saved in retirement accounts? What do you think? How much do you think he has? Well, here's the problem that Gary has at age 53. He has no retirement accounts, which means he's got no money in retirement accounts. And what Gary realizes somewhere along the way around age 53 is that if he doesn't do something different going forward, he's going to be working without it. Like, there's no end in sight for the work, because I still have bills to pay. I still have to eat, right, every day and every week and every month. So I got to have income coming in. That was the realization at 53, okay? And that can be a real wake-up call for folks. So Gary discovers self-directing, attends a workshop on self-directing, and decides, right, I need to do this. So this is what I call plan design. Now, plan designs are something that we will help clients create and put together when they become a client and specialize. And so plan designs also change over and evolve over time, because things change, right? The economy changes, rules change, right? All kinds of things change. So this is kind of a living, breathing plan document, that you will, that drives everything you do. So let's take a look at what his plan design was when he began his journey at 53. So it began with a Roth IRA, because again, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do simple math and to say, well, gee whiz, if I spend money from a Roth, I can pay no tax. If I don't spend money from a Roth and I invest outside a Roth, I'm going to have to pay some tax. So let's see here. Do I want to pay tax or do I not want to pay tax? Gary says, I don't want to pay tax. Now, he didn't want to pay tax for a few reasons. One, he said is, you know what? I don't even need the same income, because my income's getting taxed. So I could actually make less money if I'm not paying taxes and maintain my lifestyle. That's one way to think about it. Here's something else that he realized. He said, by not paying taxes, I can make up for lost time, right? So if I make $1,000 on an investment, instead of having, $600 to $700 maybe to spend or to reinvest, I get all 1,000. So all of a sudden, man, I can start to really compound exponentially my money and my wealth. So I can make up for lost time by taking taxes out of the equation. So there's a couple different ways you can look at that. So he started a Roth IRA. So again, first step was to decide that he wanted to do this. The second step was to deposit money in the account. Now, he didn't have anything to transfer or roll over. So he was starting from zero. He was starting from scratch. So he made a contribution. Specifically, he made a $4,000 contribution, because back then that's all you could contribute to the plan, right? Contribution limits change year by year. If you're over 50, there's 7,000 this year in 2020. So there you go. So they've gone up. What next? Now we need an investment strategy to plug into the plan. And his strategy was simple. He said, I'm going to buy rental properties because Tenants pay rent every single month, and when the property is, quote, paid off, then I've got this income stream coming in that I don't have to work for anymore, and that's what I'm going to use, and it's going to come from my Roth, so I'm not going to pay any taxes, and so life's going to be good, and I'll be able to maintain my lifestyle and continue on. All right. So that was the strategy, but here's the problem. How do you build a real estate portfolio with $4,000 in a Roth IRA? He doesn't have enough money. That's the problem, right? So how did he do it? He borrowed money. So there's 3 investment structures we teach clients when you come on board. One of them is borrowing. So believe it or not, if you don't have enough cash in your retirement account, or you just don't want to use your own cash, you can borrow money in your retirement account to make an investment. I'm not going to get on the details about how that strategy works. I want you to get the concept here. So he borrowed money from, you can see here, non-recourse private lenders, and that's how he got going, right? Because he didn't have enough money to pay cash for property. Now, at around age 56, the plan design changed and evolved. Why? He was out there borrowing money from private investors into his Roth to buy properties in his Roth. That was working. In 2006, the government changed the rules. And what they did was they allowed us to start making Roth contributions to 401k plans, to qualified plans, not just IRAs. So at that point, we set up what's called a Roth Solo K. That happened in 2006. Gary set up a Roth Solo K. There's lots of benefits to the Roth Solo K. It's like taking a Roth IRA and, amplifying the benefits. It's like a Roth IRA on steroids is one way I describe it. Larger contributions, so he could put $24K away that year, right? Contribute $24,000 as an example, put more money in it. There's other benefits as well. So what next? Stop buying properties in the Roth IRA and began buying properties in the Roth Solo 401K. Again, he had already built the plan, so to speak. And what happened was he borrowed it from private investors. They lent money to his Roth Solo 401k now, and he would go out and acquire the properties. He would take the rental income from the properties and pay the mortgages, right? So with time, those pay off. UDFI, we're not going to get into all of that. If you understand what that is, then you understand what that is. If you don't understand what that is, that's more of an advanced topic that we can get into in the future. So now let's fast forward. Okay, what does Gary's life, this is why I asked the question when I did, what if we would have met 10 years ago, right? Well, we can't go back in time, but we are meeting now, and you can start today. So what would your life, how would it be different if you implemented this? What would it look like 10 years from now? So remember, Gary started at 53. So what did Gary's life look like beginning at age 62? So how did this all work out? He's got a Roth Solo K, he borrowed money, he started buying real estate inside of this tax-protected environment so that he could spend it all tax-free in the future. So Gary and I do check-ins every once in a while, and in January 2015, we were meeting in Akron, which is where Gary lives, and his distribution in January 2015 was approximately $7,000 that month. $7,000. Coming from a Roth, that's 100% tax-free. So to put that in perspective, Gary effectively replaced his earned income because he had, right, remember, he's not paying taxes on that. So his earned income, even though it was higher than this, he was paying taxes, so he didn't get to spend it all. In this scenario, Gary's spending every dollar he's distributing. He doesn't have to give anything to the government. So in this scenario, he's effectively replaced his earned income. But guess what? It actually gets better from there because every month the property pays off. So one of the things that Gary did was he implemented something called the accelerated leveraging strategy. And this is where, in a nutshell, he won't spend any income from a property until the property mortgage is completely paid off. So in other words, let's say the first property pays off, he takes the cash flow from that property and he puts it on the next property that's leveraged, right? Any of the free cash flow from that property that's leveraged, he's also putting on that mortgage. So it accelerates the payoff. You do this over and over and over, and what happens is as that portfolio builds, the properties start paying off faster and faster and faster. because that income starts really, really going up. The cash flow starts really increasing. So lo and behold, at this stage of the game, 2015, on average, every month, Gary has a property paying off every month, which means once that property is paid off, he's now willing to spend that money or distribute it to himself in terms of income. So every month the property pays off, that means that every month Gary gets a raise. So fast forward, basically the portfolio got paid off by around 2018. What do you think his monthly distribution looked like in 2018? Are you ready for this? In 2018, his monthly distribution looks something like $40,000 a month. That's 100% tax-free income. Now, the interesting thing about that is that Gary didn't start with an I can't. He started with I can't, right? I gotta figure this out. And so that is how this works. It's never too late, right? That's a story that just doesn't add up. Anyone can do this. It's not overly complicated. It's not difficult. You can make money and spend it tax-free. And so the next step is to start your journey effectively. And one of the ways that you can do that, I'm going to just give you a free way. This is absolutely free, a free way to get started. If you want to learn more, the best way to do that is to do what we call a quick start consultation. So normally we charge for the quick start consultation and the book. It's a $297 value. I'm going to give it to you absolutely free. So if you want more information on this and how to implement this for yourself, be happy to talk to you about that. Just let's talk. Just reach out to me. So I'll give you a few different ways you can do that. So one way is you can call the 800 number there you see on the phone number there on the screen, and call the 800 number. Simply give us a call and ask for, I'm going to tell you who to ask for. I want you to ask for Alan Brewski. So Alan is one of my right-hand people at the company, and he has direct access to me and the entire team. And so if you tell Alan, hey, Alan, I saw Edwin talking about this stuff, and I want to set up a consultation and get his book for free, he'll go ahead and take care of all of that. You can also email him right there. You can see at abrewski@irasdc.com. Shoot him an email and just say, hey, Alan, I'd like to set up a consultation and get Edwin's book, all right? And he'll get you that all out. You could also go to the website. We have, I just put that out on the website, so you can go to the website, enter your information there, and then the team will reach out to you instead of you reaching out to them. And so you can input your information there. They'll send you the book. They'll get you scheduled, and you can go from there. So with that, Catherine, I will turn it back to you and questions if we've got any.
Yeah, so I had the one question that came in about if you use a Roth IRA for real estate and you pass away, so your kids inherited your Roth, they're the beneficiaries, how do you handle the advantage of that property, selling if they're not interested in investments? How does all that play out?
Okay, so great question. And so one of the things that I didn't touch on, let me go back to this. So actually, let me switch here. I'm going to go right back here, a couple of slides. So one of the things I want to point out here, so when we talk about why real estate in retirement accounts, so Gary built this income stream for his retirement. But here's the really cool thing about it. When Gary passes away, what happens to that retirement account? That account goes to his, well, it depends how you designate it, but it would go right to his spouse. Now, the great thing about that is that in that case, she gets the money and she can spend it tax-free from the day she inherits the account. Ultimately, what happens is, right, she's going to pass away. Then where does the money go? The account transfers to the two sons, which, by the way, they're both clients now. But that account will transfer to the two sons. And when it goes to the two sons, now they get to spend the money tax-free the day they inherit the account. But let's say the sons decide, you know what, I don't want to invest in real estate. I want to invest in something else. The great thing about an inherited Roth account, or any inherited IRA for that matter, is that when you inherit a retirement account, you can basically do almost anything with it that you would do if it were your own account. You can invest it, you can grow it, you can spend it. The only thing you're not allowed to do with an inherited IRA is to contribute to it. So if you inherit an IRA and you don't want to own the investments in there, you basically sell them. And then you take the cash and you put it into something else, or you spend it. That's totally at the discretion of the IRA owner. The one thing I will say about owning an asset like this, and this is something that, again, was part of Gary's plan design going into it, was that he wanted to create a stream of income that would support his heirs, right, his beneficiaries for their entire life. He didn't want them to have to figure out how to invest and make money. He took care of all of that for them. So in that sense, it's very, very beneficial. However, once the two boys inherit that account, could they liquidate the entire portfolio and just get a realtor and say, sell all the property? Absolutely. So they just sell out of it. It comes back as cash. They could, again, do whatever they choose to do with it at that point. So it's always up to the owner of the IRA what they invest the money in.
Okay, perfect. And if they were to liquidate, all of that money is still tax-free for them to go on.
Yeah, so if the property, I mean, let's just take an example. Let's say you bought a property for $100,000, and 20 years from now, 30 years from now, your heirs sell it and it's worth $1 million. Well, guess what? It's in a Roth, so that's a $900,000 capital gain that they don't pay any tax on. That's why I say there's no scenario that I've ever looked at where this doesn't make sense. I mean, understand, I didn't give you any background on me or the company really. I'm kind of going with an assumption that that's not the focus today. But let me just tell you this. I'm focused on building wealth. The reason why I got into retirement accounts, and specifically self-directed retirement accounts, is because what I discovered along my journey as I was investing and doing things is that these were the tools that kept coming up that the wealthiest people in the country were using. That's what got me to look at them. It's not that I'm excited about retirement accounts. What I'm excited about is building wealth and not paying taxes and protecting my assets from creditors and things like that. All these things that these accounts do. So this is a tool that wealthy people, individuals, and families use to build, create, and transfer wealth across generations. So these are wealth building tools. So that's really the impetus behind it. I don't care if they call it a retirement account or they call it something else. I just know how it works, and I know how it can help me build wealth, and it does the same thing for anybody who uses it.
Edwin, can you briefly touch on what the process is for taking a wholesale transaction and using your retirement account to grow that wealth through something not even taking the possession of real estate?
Yeah, so it's actually, believe it or not, it's so simple. I'm embarrassed to even almost share it with you, but here's how it works. So normally, if you're used to wholesaling, then you would put down your name, right, on that purchase contract, whether, and I don't care if you're using a purchase contract or some sort of other option contract. Basically, it's a purchase contract at the end of the day, right? And there's a buyer.
Right.
Now you're making that contract to where you can assign it to someone else, right? So it's an assignable contract, but it's still a purchase contract. So literally, what you probably do now, if you're wholesaling, is you put your personal name down there, or you have an LLC that you put on there. And so when you assign that contract, whoever you're assigning it to is writing a check to who holds that contract now, i.e. you or your LLC. The only difference between doing it that way and doing it in your retirement account is that you don't put your name down and you don't put your LLC name down. You put down Specialized Trust Company, FBO, which stands for the benefit of, right? Your name, IRA, and the account number. That's it. Now, your IRA owns that contract. So when the person that you assign that contract to writes the check for the assignment, you get your assignment fee. The assignment fee is now made payable to your retirement account, and that's where the money goes. It's literally a different name on the purchase contract. It's that simple.
And then that $20,000 goes back into your retirement account tax-free, correct? If it's an IRA?
That's the idea.
Yeah. Very cool. That's really exciting. I know that there were a couple people that logged on a little bit late, so I want to let everybody know that it will be on YouTube probably tomorrow afternoon by the time it downloads and processes. But I want to put out there if questions. I'm putting in the chat now. If you guys would like to respond to that, I think we've got a couple more minutes of Edwin. Brett, you. Okay. I don't see any questions coming in. So like I said, it'll be on our YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon, which is youtube.com REI Live SRQ. I will put up there and I'll tag Specialized IRA in it so that you guys can see everybody and their contact information. Edwin, thank you for your time. Something new every time we speak. So thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Edwin. Bye-bye.